This is Think Out Loud on OPB. I'm Dave Miller. It has been nearly 5 months since the Oregon legislature pledged $365 million in state bonds to renovate the Moda Center. Since that time, officials at the city of Portland and Multnomah County have been talking about kicking in their own pots of public money, $120 and $100 million respectively. But the finger-pointing and sniping between local officials and Trailblazers representatives has become so public that the specter of the Blazers leaving Portland has returned. As Portland City Council President Jamie Dunphy told The Athletic just yesterday, he says it looks like the team is either disinterested in transparency and accountability with public dollars, or they're going to run out the clock and wait for the government to give them an excuse to move. But how would that actually work, and where might the Blazers move to? Mike Vorkunov is a national NBA and business reporter for The Athletic and the host of the Business Decision podcast. Yaron Weitzman is an NBA writer and the author of 2 books. His latest is called A Hollywood Ending, The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Lakers. They both join me now. Mike and Yaron, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
How's it going?
Doing great. Thanks very much for joining us. So, Mike, first, did you expect the Blazers to be one of the big stories of the NBA this offseason?
Maybe if they had continued to go, if Tom Dundon had continued to do what he'd been doing in his first few months as owner, I thought maybe that's how they could keep their names in the headlines, but maybe not like this.
So the possibility that the Blazers would leave Portland has been the subject of a ton of statewide interest this year, but it seemed to really break back into, or maybe into, the national conversation for the first time a few weeks ago after some comments by NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. He was asked about the Blazers' future in Portland. He said that he had spent time with new owner Tom Dundon and his team officials, and then he added this.
What we are most focused on right now, the league office, is the deal that we discussed when we were in Portland in March. I was hoping more progress would have been made by now on that agreement, and it seems to have gone off track in various ways. And so I have a colleague, Joe Masco, who's day-to-day on it, but we're working with both sides to ensure that the Trailblazers can have a long-term future in Portland. But there are several open issues that still need to be resolved.
Yaron, what went through your mind when you heard that?
It's funny, actually. Mike and I were both in attendance at that press conference in Las Vegas at NBA Summer League. And Mike, you're correct. I think I texted Mike as soon as he said it, said, that didn't sound good. Sounds like there's a problem. And to me, one of the things to pay attention to this is Adam Silver is somebody who doesn't, when he talks about things in public, or you can look at expansion, which I'm sure we'll get to, right? He's been talking about expansion frequently, and many years it's been talked about, and we're not there yet. The vote, it doesn't get put to a vote until he feels confident. So I bring that up to say, you don't have many examples of Adam Silver putting his neck out there and then things not being completed. Like, he usually has the background information to know. So when he went there, whatever it was, March, I'm going to mess up my calendar, and talks to reporters and says we think we're getting a deal done, you can tell in these recent comments that he is surprised. And I think that's kind of that's as publicly annoyed. Mike can maybe disagree with me, but that's as annoyed as you'll hear Adam Silver get in public, kind of saying, I thought we had an agreement in place and we have not made progress to the extent that I think we would have. To me, that was sort of interesting. And the way I read that was basically Tom Dundon is proving to be more difficult than I expected.
Well, so Mike, to follow up on that, this is, and it's very gentle kind of annoyance, because Adam Silver is a very careful political person.
Yes.
but to the extent that he's annoyed and not explicitly saying who he's annoyed with, you agree that it's Tom Dundon here and not city officials who have been bending over backwards to, even though many of them don't want to come up with some version of public money?
Well, I think the interesting part is how that question was asked to lead to his answer. It was asked by Sean Heiken of the Rose Garden Report, who covers the Blazers here in Portland, and he asked him if the local government gives him all the money that he's looking for, the $500, I think $75 million that they had discussed, would that be enough to keep the Blazers in Portland and to get his name on a lease? And that's what Adam Silver could not answer definitively, which makes me think that there's some annoyance at the Blazers side of things as much as there is the inability to finish this deal off, and let alone on the Portland and Oregon government side of things, because the state legislature has approved. What is that? I think
it's a $365 million. Yeah, pending the local money from the city and the county. Yeah.
Yes.
So, Yaron, for weeks now, there have been back and forths in which city leaders, including the mayor, say that they're waiting on important design information and clarity about what the team wants. The team said in various ways, in various venues, hey, we've given you everything we can at this point, and we've given you more information than lawmakers had when they agreed to spend that bond money. So just tell us, just give us the money basically, and then we'll tell you how we will spend it. I'm paraphrasing, but that is a version of what they've said. Yaron, how would you describe what we've now seen to be Tom Dundon's negotiating style?
What's the opposite? We don't negotiate with terrorists, right? Basically, like I'm gonna hold my line and not budge and force you to do what I want. And I do think so. It's funny. I think one of the reasons Mike and I were talking about this, and I'm here, is because I'd done a little reporting, talked to some people at ownership level around the league, and getting their read on things. And most were of the belief that Tom Dundon. These were people not from Portland, right? Were of the belief that Tom Dundon is not going to move the Blazers. There's nowhere for him to go. Expansion's going to happen, so we can't take any of those new markets, and there's nowhere else for him to go, right? It costs money. I do think there's a world though where, and it could be maybe Tom Dundon to answer your question, maybe it's a 4D chess type of thing where, you know what, I'm going to hold strong and I'm going to get it to a point where the Portland local officials basically react in a way where they go to war with me and they don't offer any funding and they take all that off the table. And then the math tilts in the favor where then I can go to my board of governors, my partners, and say, hey, there's not even a deal for me here. I guess the math checks out. Let me go to a different city. And I think for somebody, I guess to answer your question, for the negotiating strategy is I have no ties to Portland. I don't care about the community. I mean, he's been very clear about that, right? He hasn't come out and said I want to stay in Portland. So it's basically like, meet me at this number or I'm going to figure out a way to get out of here. That's what he wants them to believe.
Mike, what actually has to happen for an NBA team to move?
Well, it's a long, fun, complicated journey through the NBA Constitution. Basically they have to make an application to relocate with the league. They have to do it by March 1st of the preceding season of when they want to do it. So, hypothetically, let's say they want to move next season. And I'm not saying that's the case, but just for timeline purposes, they would have to put this application in by March 1st of this season. And then the league and the commissioner appoints a relocation committee who looks into this, who looks at the application, looks at what's possible, kind of gets a view of the landscape, both in Portland and what the city is, the proposed city that they would try to relocate to. And then the NBA and all the team owners would have to take a vote on it. And unlike many things in the NBA, which needs a 3/4 approval from the owners, this one needs a majority vote for a team to be able to relocate and to move. So that at least is in their, hypothetically in the Blazers' favor here because it's a lower bar to succeed. But I think the hard part is, and this is the part that we can't all account for, is they have to weigh how good it is for the NBA as a whole. That's one of the written conditions that this relocation committee and that the owners have to consider is what is the benefit of this to the NBA as a whole. And, Portland might be a smaller market, but it's still, in terms of a media market, top 25 in the country, and has a long history of supporting a basketball team. And obviously then the question also is, where would that new city be? So these are all things that the league and the commissioner and the other owners would have to think about in order to approve a relocation.
Right, and we'll get to the expansion piece of this in just a second. But Yaron, I mean, how? And so if we're talking about, say, 15 other owners who would need to vote yes to make this happen, how might a relocation to let's say Austin or Raleigh, North Carolina, how might that affect the other owners?
Well, so there's the overall bottom line, right? And I guess the case that Dundon would be making is that, more revenue in the NBA, let revenue split between owners in different areas. So the case would be more revenue for us, for me, equals more revenue for all of us. What he'd have to fight, like Austin's an interesting one, right? Because Austin is sort of in the Spurs' backyard. I don't think that's official, but the Spurs have made have attempted to sort of make that one of their hometowns or make that a fan base of theirs. And an example of how these things work, right? The Spurs have a powerful ownership group that's been involved and in the NBA many years and ingrained with the league office and close to Adam Silver for many years. So there are all these backroom political dealings that could impact how people vote, right? All these things that we don't do. It's sort of like the cliched, men in back rooms, rich men in back rooms coming to decisions that we don't see how they argue about it, but we see the decisions. And you'd have that sort of play out. So Dundon would have to make the case both on a league-wide scale that would be helpful for everyone, meaning we're going to make more revenue. Mike make the point about the fan base, right? So I know Portland, the quote unquote business community might not be as strong as in other cities, but you have a strong fan base, and you don't have that in many other places. I agree. I live in New York. The New Jersey Nets moved to Brooklyn. I don't know what their sponsorship situation is. There are no Brooklyn fans, right? There are no Brooklyn Nets fans, and it kills everything about the team. It kills the arena, it kills tickets, it kills the vibes, all of that. So to give up a fan base that's committed to a team, you better be pretty sure and certain, and you better present a really strong case to your fellow owners as to why that would be a strong move.
Mike, how did the announcement of Seattle and Las Vegas as expansion cities, as opposed to relocation, so new franchises, how has that complicated the possibility of a Blazers move?
Well, for one, I mean, when you're thinking about bidding on a team, one, you have two teams that are out there for potential bidders. And I think when you're thinking about relocation, you're saying, are we going to let Tom Dundon buy a team for $4.25 billion, which is, almost a bottom barrel price for an NBA team, and let him move there, right? Which would kind of get in the way of shortcutting really expansion, because you're asking other people to pay $8 billion for a new team and move it in one of these marquee cities, whereas Tom Dundon would get to buy for half that price potentially and move it to a city of his choosing. And so the expansion process gets in the way in that regard. And additionally, it takes two cities off the map, right? Las Vegas and Seattle would have been at the top of the list of any potential relocation sites, but the NBA probably gets a lot more benefit from just putting new teams and owners in those two markets than letting Portland go there.
I'm talking right now with Mike Vorkunov and Yaron Weitzman. They both cover the business of sports and NBA. Mike is also the host of the Business Decision podcast. Yaron is the author of 2 books about basketball. His latest is called A Hollywood Ending: The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Lakers. Yaron, as you noted, you've been talking to various folks at the ownership level around the association, around the NBA. What's your sense for how they're looking at Dundon at this point, separate even from all of the questions about public money for a renovated arena and the possibility of the Blazers leaving? I'm curious, just he's made a lot of local news here and probably league news in cost cutting. How is he seen as a new owner?
So I'll be careful here. I want to stress that my sample size. I haven't spoken to 20 owners about Tom Dundon, right? So I want to stress the sample size part of that. It's interesting. So I think most are, or I should say most, the people I speak with are a bit turned off and surprised by the way he's come in. Just, we'll say guns a-blazing, right? Would be, I guess, the proper phrase. There is, I hate expressing this viewpoint, but there are some who believe that, there is bloat in the NBA, and it's not bad for somebody to come in and say, you know what, maybe we don't need 40 assistant summer league coaches in Las Vegas with us, and we can do some of those things. And, probably somebody's got to be first through the door in that one. Maybe so if he wants to take all the bullets because he doesn't care about the PR, and we've clearly learned that Tom Dundon does not care what is being said about him. I think a lot of times owners come in, they say that, and it turns out to not be the case. So far, God bless. That seems to be one thing we've learned. He's cool with it. So I think some are kind of happy, like, yeah, he wants to take all the fire on there, and then we don't have to have all these coaches, and we don't have to give the players everything they want, and we don't have to have all the extra meals and all that. They're okay with it. But, the way he came in was just strange. Even doing it, if you want to wait 6 months and do that stuff, that's one thing. To do it, 2 months after buying the team, like before the play-in and playoff games, and we have check-in questions about whether the guys can stay for massage therapists, can do late checkout, and two-way players can go to playoff games. It's just strange. The thing that's, I think, working in his favor probably, and against people who are maybe on the other end of it, is that fact that he just won a Stanley Cup, right? And that sort of validates and vindicates in his mind. It's clearly that the way I do things is the proper way to do it.
All right. So to cut to the chase here, Mike, how much do you think, how likely do you think it is that 6 years from now, when the current lease is up and the future of the Blazers that we're talking about will have come to pass, how likely do you think it is that the Blazers will be in Portland?
Call me a romantic, but I'm going to say it's more likely than not. I think they'll stay.
Give us a number. Come on.
A number? Oh, man. 60%. How about that?
And Yaron, just briefly, how much do you think the departure of the Sonics to Oklahoma City from the Northwest, from Seattle, is hanging over this?
That's an interesting question. Short answer, I don't know, but I would guess that Adam Silver is very aware of that, how that's sort of a blemish on the legacy of David Stern. And Adam Silver strikes me as somebody who cares about his legacy. He cares about, appeasing the owners more, but I would guess he's aware of that and probably does not want to lose the team, especially after having, like we started this conversation, after having said, I expect them and like the Blazers to remain in Portland. So I do think that there's an impact there.
Yaron and Mike, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yaron Weitzman is an NBA writer, the author of 2 books, including A Hollywood Ending, The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Lakers. Mike Vorkunov is a national NBA and business reporter for The Athletic and the host of the Business Decision podcast.